welcome back to Chronicles of Therapist with Cass. I wanted to continue my last conversation that we had about healing and how important it is to get your healing however you need for foundational purposes. And so, why that's super important for today's topic is I was talking to a sister of mine. Heck, I be talking. I really be talking. I be having these deep conversations. I don't be making them up. But anyway, so I was talking to one of my sisters, and we were just talking about the struggles we have had rather with dating. And there are so many waves. There's so many podcasts. There's so many people talking about is men and then or it's women. It's man or it's women. And so we were just talking about as a woman, and both of us are very independent, and I've shared this before, like I struggle with being vulnerable, and, you know, the dating pool can be kind of trashy, you know? But what I realized having in that conversation with her is that a lot of us women who have been through stuff either have or have not done healing, we attract people who might have our core issues, right? So for me, for instance, for the majority of my adulthood, I always attracted men who were emotionally unavailable. As great as Frank Shepard is, I admire him. He is my dad. But that man is emotionally unavailable completely. Like, he was not the emotional parent. And I know for a fact that it's because of, like I said in previous episodes, it's because of what he experienced. My grandmother wasn't. Like, we can't expect nothing that he never had to be something that he now magically has. And my dad is a girl dad too, so you would think, being a girl dad, that you would be more emotionally available, but he is not. But I say that to say, like, I realized that is one of the reasons I had struggles with my vulnerability, because I grew up with a father who was unemotional, who was detached emotionally. They are present, not there emotionally. And so as an adult dating, guess who I was drawn to? I was now drawn to men who were just like that. They had some of the other qualities of my dad, but they were absolutely unemotional. And so that begot me not being vulnerable, because when I be vulnerable for like, you ain't giving me no emotions anyway, you're not really tapped in, right? And so that conversation that me and my sister were having, it made me literally think of, as a woman, we always talk about, well, men ain't doing this and they not consistent and they not able to communicate and well, how many of us women, or how many people have thought about what men do go through, what traumas they go through? How is it that a man has to be provider and protector, as well as soft enough for their significant other, as well as it's impossible if you haven't done that healing. So as a man, if you haven't tapped into why I shut down or become aggressive, if you haven't tapped into the lack of healthy relationships that I've seen, that's a big thing, I think, for men too. Like, a lot of men that I've met, maybe either they didn't have a father who was solid, who they could glean all those great qualities from, or they have a mom who might not speak well of men. So if you got a mom who is dishing your dad and men ain't doing this, and what are you supposed to do? I feel like when I look at me and my siblings, and I can only speak to this from my perspective as the youngest sister of my mom's kids. I have two older brothers, and their relationship with their significant others, I feel like, is because of their response to what my mom did or didn't do growing up. So, and I think when my mom was on here, we talked about this. My older brother was raised by his grandmother. So my older brother has this shadow of neglect or abandonment from women. While grandma was there, my mom wasn't. I feel like she neglected. And so because of that, the women that he then gravitated towards had some of those same characteristics, and my brother the same. My brother was in the house, but when my brother was younger, my mom, I'm trying to be PC. My mom was out there. She was a little out there. She ain't no more. That wasn't my experience. My mom was, she was for the streets a little bit, just a little bit. So he then didn't want that type of woman in his life, right? So when you think about the psychology of men and think about we as women, he need to be this and he need to, but if a man hasn't done the same healing that we have, how can we expect our man to be anything other than what he has? You can't. You just can't. And another thing, and I'm gonna just say this, ladies, you you could be a woman who wants your significant other. You want your man to be your best friend, right? I think it's great. I think you should have that great relationship with your significant other. But you have to be realistic that he's a bro best friend. He ain't like sister homegirl, your sister best friend. They are not the same. As women, we have this ability to be nurturing and pick up on stuff that men don't just know. And I think the longer a man is with a woman, if he's open and receptive, he can learn those things if she communicates it well. So then when you think about us in our healing journey, if I'm a woman, case in point, I'll share this. I realized a month ago, a month ago, I realized my mom has this habit of barking at people. And when I say barking, you got to do this. Like, she has this way, that's how she's navigated, and I've seen her do it with every husband, including the one that she has now. And in my relationship, I saw myself doing it, but I immediately was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's automatic because I grew up in it. That's how I experienced my mom. That's how I experienced her dynamic with her husbands. So when I realized I was doing it, so now I'm working on not doing it automatically, but I'm super regretful when I do it because it'll be something stupid and it ain't nothing crazy. I'm gonna help y'all. You in the car, y'all driving, and as a woman, he driving, that the exit is coming up and you see it, he all the way over here. You got two decisions. You can say, okay, babe, the exit's coming up, right? Or you can be like, get off right here, right? And depending on the man, depending on his experiences and that could trigger something. It's super small, but depending on how his upbringing, if he got yelled at, he might think you're being disrespectful. He might think that you don't trust his ability to lead and all of the things. And all you're like is, I know if we miss this exit, it's not another exit for 10 minutes. And as a woman, you ain't thinking about all of the stuff that kind of comes into play with what he got going on. And so for me, that is what I've learned in this situation, the person I'm dating now. Like, ooh, some of my mom's traits is coming out. Oh, still got some healing to do. All right. And so ironically enough, I had this conversation with my mom and she was like, you talked to him with him? I was like, yes, because he noticed it and he pointed it out. And I was like, she was like, oh I'm embarrassed. I said, why are you embarrassed? Like, I brought it up to you because as I'm trying to work through it, you might need to too because you got a husband. And maybe, possibly, the reason y'all be going at it sometimes could be you might be barking at him a bit much, And so, and I know that this idea of what are our men going through and what I started reading this book called For Women Only, and I don't remember the author, but it's really big on learning the importance of honoring the man in your life and respect. And a lot of the stuff us as women don't realize that we doing. And even if you grew up in the realm of church, we're supposed to, yes, the man is ahead and you're supposed to, a lot of us women have not felt safe to allow a man to lead. So we tend to become aggressive and become more masculine because whether it's unhealed trauma, whether it's lack of father, we haven't experienced that. And so that's what made me read the book. And because of it, I'm not done with it. I'll be honest. I'm on chapter 4. But my biggest struggle and what I wanted to learn was how do I translate? I understand that men go through stuff. Being a man is not, just like being a woman isn't easy. But we don't, as women, think about what a man has to go through. His own traumas and his own, I got to provide, I got to protect. And sometimes that's all the capacity I got. because I ain't just got to provide and protect. I got to go to work and do the same stuff at work. I got to do the same stuff with my sisters and them. And so a lot of times as women, we want men to just, y'all need to do such and such and such. And well, a man has to be able to strategically navigate those things. And most men haven't learned how to be soft, because how do you be soft and then be masculine and people look at you different? It's impossible. And so when I think about healing and the importance of what that healing dynamic looks like, we as women and men also have to look at each other's. The same way a man wants his significant other, his wife, his girlfriend, his fiance, the mother of his children to not nag. Well, sometimes we nag because I did. I asked you to take the trash out. I did. And it's beginning to bother me. And I also know if I take the trash out, you're going to be mad because you told me you was going to do it. But I did. It's just kind of sitting there. And so a woman might not know how to verbalize that in a way where a man has the capacity to understand it. But those are some of the arguments that we go through. Something as simple as, I wanted you to take the trash out and you didn't. So, like, it's important for us to do the healing that we learn how, if nothing else, one, be open and be able to be vulnerable. And I'll be real. This is my real thought. How can we be in relationship with somebody that we feel like we can't be vulnerable with? What are we doing? Like, if you're in a relationship with somebody and there is a big, huge barrier of you being vulnerable, and maybe you don't know how to be vulnerable. So I would give that too. Like, I think, and this is somebody who is working on being vulnerable. But like I said, it's a working thing. It's not, like I said last episode, it don't just happen automatically. So me being vulnerable means I'm safe with you. I have an understanding that you're not going to maliciously do anything to hurt me if I'm vulnerable. And guess what you can do? You can always preface stuff. There are moments where I say stuff like, okay, I'm going to say this. I might not say it right. It's going to come out wrong. I haven't got that far to work it out where it's soft and pretty. But I know I need to say this, and this is as raw as it's going to be. And sometimes prefacing that gives the other party the opportunity to be like, I can listen with a different ear. And so that for somebody, if you're struggling with being vulnerable, like, even men who are struggling, like, I don't want to be vulnerable because I don't want her to think that I'm soft. No, a lot of us women want our men to communicate and be open, because in real life, that's the softest you should be, is with her at home where it's safe, because you do have to be outside the house and take on this, I got to provide and protect everybody. So you should be able to be the softest ever at home. Ooh, lost my earring. Ever. You should be able to say, you know what, babe, I had a day. These jokers at work, they're trying me. I just want to come and do my job, and I don't want to do the politics, right? You should be able to say that to her. And she shouldn't meet you with, well, we got to pay this, and that. That is the psychology of men and women. That is the dance that we have to be open and ready to do. And if you don't do that healing, it's not going to work. And so, like last episode, I talked about being open and vulnerable with your therapist. Even if you're doing couples counseling, you got to be safe there. You got to be in a place where if you guys decide, if you're in a relationship and you decide to go to couples counseling, please, ma'am, please, sir, please, do not use anything that's said in therapy as weapons, because guess what that does? That undoes the entire therapeutic response. Because if you're like, yeah, because you said such and such. Well, yeah, I said it because I thought we needed to talk about it. But if you're going to bring it back to the house, guess what it's going to do? Everybody going to shut down. Everybody's going to shut down. So, in closing, I just really, really feel like our relationships on both ends are lacking because of our lack of communication, our lack of vulnerability, and most importantly, our lack of healing. And so do the work that you need to. Be honest. And get you a therapist who you feel comfortable with. Have to. Because we were talking earlier, if you got a therapist who don't understand what you're putting down, you gonna not want to talk. You gonna want to be silent the whole like this. You trying to? All right. I always tell people that when it comes to therapy, you're not gonna take any primary care physician. You ain't gonna take anyone because if they got bad, bedside manner, you're gonna be like, yeah, no thanks. Therapy's the same way. So I just want you guys to think about the importance of healing. Understand that the healing that has to happen, like we talked about last episode, is pieces. Like you can't, even in your relationships and your traumas, it's pieces and parts. And everything that you master, every skill that you learn, we now add it to the next problem, the next trauma, the next stage of healing. And so even in our psychology of men and women, you gotta be safe, be vulnerable. Maybe y'all need to work on how to make your relationship safe. That might start there. Start there, because if I feel safe, our money gonna be right because I trust you. But if I don't trust you, we might be struggling. So just little words of wisdom. You guys can follow me on TikTok at JustCastCOT. Also link with me on Instagram at cnshep_chronicles. Thanks for listening, and allow your passion to prepare your purpose. See y'all next time.